Hey y'all, my name's Madigan. You can call me Maddie. Today is a special voiceover practice, because as my chat knows, I'm getting my voiceover demo done on the 22nd of this month. So, we are going to be performing all of the reads that I'll be doing on my voiceover demo. A little bit of an early sneak peek on what the fully mastered version may look like. So I hope you enjoy, and let's get into it. Hi YouTube, sub to Madigan? Exactly, sub to me. Our first one will be In Twisted Shadows. When I first read this to my voiceover coach, he was incredibly surprised about how I immediately embodied the person in this, because this kind of narration is first person. So not only do you have to be good at reading, you have to be good at putting yourself in the character. It was real. There was no denying that the dark, twisted shadows in my dreams were after me. I didn't want to leave Dana with Flynn, but I didn't have any choice. If I wanted to save Amy, I'd have to go to the lighthouse myself. Flynn wasn't the bravest person I'd ever met, but his heart was in the right place. As it was, I was cold, exhausted, and out of options. But this had to end tonight. I set my mind to one thought, and those words rang in my head like a wind chime in a storm. The darkness won't take my daughter. Little gravitas, little darkness to it, a little bit of determination and fear. He doesn't want to go to the lighthouse, but he has to. So you got to embody that trepidation, that fear, but that determination. The darkness won't take my daughter. Just make another daughter easy fix. I didn't think of that one, Flash. You know what? But so that was our first audiobook he had me do. So when I read this, he decided he instead wanted to go off script. We had set aside some ones to test, but he liked my character reading so much, he brought me to a different book that he wanted me to try. The Crimson Force. This is a narration that is supposed to be like a video game. So, you know when you're in like a Call of Duty mission or getting a quest in Fallout 4 or whatever you think, and there's a guy who's talking at you, giving you advice, telling you the lay of the land. He's maybe a grizzled warrior, has a few wars under his belt, and he's here to take you under his wing. Scene is set. Let's do the Crimson Force. If you want to reach the dam, you got a few options. Your first option, go straight ahead. This, of course, I'll bring you directly into the Crimson Force's camp, which would probably not be the best idea unless you're feeling bulletproof. The second option is to take the hiking trail to the west and climb up the mountain. This seems like a safer idea until you think about all the wildlife in the rocks. I'm not exactly fond of the scribs, but I'm almost not as handy with a sidearm as you are. The third option is a bit of a long shot. We got the teleportation device working, but there are a few, bugs. The entire time I was reading this, he kept nodding to himself, and he turned to me and he said, "That was perfect. That was excellent." So we go from Crimson Force to the Silver Lion. Now, so these scripts are either scripts that were tossed out or scripts designed specifically for it. So this is obviously a their original OC, and it's not Aslan from Lion, the Lich, and the Wardrobe. You can find it? Hell yeah. Arranging himself on the stone slab, the Silver Lion looked at his subjects. Some gazed directly at him, their faces reflecting back the light that shone from his coat. But a few creatures shifted their weight and looked away. It was to one of these the lion spoke. "Sir Hollington of the Goats, do you know who betrayed the children into the hands of my enemies?" Sir Hollington looked up fearfully and said,
"It was the men of the Father's army."
With a terrifying intensity, the lion asked, "Why?" Sir Hollington replied,
"If the children are dead, sire, they cannot fulfill the prophecy."
Hearing this, the Silver Lion sprang to his feet, letting loose a roar of outrage. So definitely not Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So we moved on from narration. He wanted me to try industrial training for like an angry customer, because a lot of VO work isn't just audiobooks or character work. A lot of it is training videos, phone lines, working with different companies that need VO work, as opposed to like for commercial style, more on like the back end style where you're training people. So this next reading is called The Angry Customer. It's kind of like, think of it if you've ever worked at retail. You go in and there's a training video that they play for you that was recorded on a VHS tape back in like the 80s. And they still have like one of those carts they roll out with a CRTV on it. You know when you're in like high school and that cart came out with a TV on it and you go, oh shit, it's Bill Nye the Science Guy time. This is kind of that. It's like a training video you provide to someone. I'm gonna do this kind of like a documentary style. In its natural habitat, the angry customer is usually a solitary creature. However, they can cluster in large groups and become very dangerous. Notice how our subject is eyeing another group of customers, deciding whether or not to pounce? This is when they become the most dangerous. Usually, the angry customer can be placated with just a small effort on the part of the associate, but sometimes drastic measures must be taken. While tranquilizing them would be the easiest, it's not always the best solution. Observe as the employee on screen takes notice of the angry customer in their midst and becomes tense. This can be a mistake. The angry customer can smell fear, and adopting a defensive posture can often lead to a bigger confrontation. National Geographic Who? My voiceover teacher thinks I should try out doing documentary style stuff too. So we then moved on to comic book history. He liked how I did the training, but he wanted to see how I could put emotion into something that doesn't really have it. Because this read is just something that it seems like something you would just read in a book. Like, here, let me give you an example. You're reading it to yourself and you hear it like this. Published in 1933, Famous Funnies is considered the very first comic book, but it wasn't until 1938 that the art form became a national phenomenon. That's how it's supposed to be read. But if we're taking this as a voiceover thing, you have to be able to inject emotion to something that doesn't naturally have it, which is difficult. So find something in it that you can grab onto. And for me, it's how interesting comic books are. I don't have to be passionate about the read. I can be passionate about the subject matter. So when I read this, I do it more like this. Published in 1933, Famous Funnies is considered the very first comic book, but it wasn't until 1938 that the art form became a national phenomenon. It was the publication of Action Comics #1, the first appearance of Superman, that made comic books explode in popularity. It is one of the rarest comic books in the world, with less than 25 copies known to exist. See? Yep, we have one last reading we're doing. The last reading he had me do was one that's more technical, like a scientific one. If you're reading for like a class or reading for some sort of educational material. All right, so we're gonna be doing fibromyalgia. It's close to my heart. My mom has fibromyalgia and I have a disease similar, you know, in its the way it rears its head. Fibromyalgia is one of the most common rheumatic syndromes in ambulatory general medicine. It affects approximately 3 to 10% of the general population. Clinical research has shown that the affliction to have several symptomatic similarities to chronic fatigue syndrome. Musculoskeletal pain predominates in fibromyalgia, whereas muscular weakness dominates in cases of chronic fatigue syndrome. Though a cause has not been found, it has been proposed that depression, viral infections, and sleep disorders may be contributing factors. For one wishing to approach their diagnosis using natural medicines, common food allergies such as dairy, corn, wheat, and eggs, and tomatoes should be eliminated from their diet. So, taking something that's purely scientific, like you read this in a book somewhere, adding any sort of emotion to it, pauses, inflections, lingering on a word is the best way to bring some form of interest to it. Otherwise, you're just kind of sleeping your day away. But that is what's going to be on my demo. We're going to be doing in less than 2 weeks on the 22nd of February. I'll be performing in a professional voiceover booth all of these reads I just did to you, they're going to be clipped, remastered, edited together with background music and background tracking. And at that point, I'll have like a 1.5 to a 2 minute fully produced professional demo where I can then spread it around and spread my wings to become a better voice actor. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like and subscribe. A lot of people don't know that it helps, but it really does. Get the number going up. It makes me spread to more people, get a little bit of dopamine. I also have a Patreon. It's linked in the description. Doing this full time is difficult, and any support helps. We also have weekly community nights where we watch movies together. Last time we actually watched the live action Scooby-Doo, which is a lot more interesting than I remember it being. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a lovely day. Goodbye, y'all.